Alright everyone, welcome back to the Onsen. I'm your host as always, Mazo, joined by Sis.
Hey.
And NBT.
Quack.
Okay.
Quack.
Alright. So today... fucking quacks. Today, we're gonna cover etiquette at shows. So basically, we're all from different parts of the world, and at different parts of the world and at different shows, different things are expected of you, and you're probably going to see different things also, depending on the kind of show. So that's something I wanted to go over. So I guess I'll pass the question over to NBT, because you've seen a few things in your life. What do you?
I have many years in my bag.
What do you think is expected of people at a show?
Well, it's since I live in Sweden, it's quite how would you say it? Like, it's quite free. You can really do whatever you want, except when you go to these Visual-kei shows, everything changes. Like what is expected, because the crowd is so different from the regular kind of rock shows or metal shows that you find in Sweden. So instantly, when you go to a Visual-kei show, there's like 90% girls, and everything is more fragile. That's basically how it is.
What do you mean fragile? As in, what's specifically fragile?
So, you know how shows can, like, for example, with like Crystal Lake, you know, like this metalcore band, they're really rough and the crowd goes crazy and everyone like crowd surf and stuff like that and expect it to be rough. But with Visual-kei shows, a lot of the girls are like teenage girls, and they themselves are quite like, they want to have their personal space. So whenever it gets rough in the crowd, they kind of like retaliate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They get pissy. That's for sure. I will say here in the States, there's a lot of similarity, but also if you look at Visual-kei and JROCK shows versus some of the more Western bands I've seen, and like a good example is like going to a festival where a Japanese band happens to show up, you'll see the stark contrast in fans that are there. Like I have a friend he's really into black metal and, you know, Western metal in general, but black metal is his favorite genre, and he went to Blackest of the Black, and Hyde was there. Hyde was there with Vamps. It was a really weird festival because it was called Blackest of the Black, and they had Vamps, and Vamps isn't really black metal, but not a lot of the bands were really black metal. But he said the fans for Vamps, like, they all came on their own bus. And they were at their stage from the beginning of the festival up until they performed, and then after they performed, that was when they kind of dispersed. But they didn't perform until a little bit later in the day, and even during other bands' performances, they just fucking stood there and were like, "Yeah, we're not here for you." So that's something I've noticed at a festival with certain Japanese rock fans, is like the bands that go on before, you don't matter.
But that's quite Western, actually. When you're in Japan and you go to these like Thai bands, if you're into one of the bands or two of the bands, you would go to like more to the front, if you're into that band. But if you're not into that band, you would actually leave the venue and stand outside and wait until it's your turn again.
So I guess with that, are the people nice enough to let you forward? I mean, because there are people coming and going, but here, like, you're not getting close. You got to fight to get close. If somebody's got a good spot, they're not giving it up.
Yeah, but so it's quite different. Like, even like the Visual-kei crowd and the like, even if in the same country, the rules are quite different. Like, I don't know what to expect, really, if you should follow like the typical Western rules when you're in a Visual-kei show in the West, or if you should follow the Japanese rules that most of the fans seem to kind of, I don't know, accommodate to. But Sis, you've been to Japan and a lot of the shows there as well. How was your experience there?
Yeah, basically when MBT was talking about Thai bands, I experienced the same thing. People will come in, they will buy their ticket for that one band, because I guess on the door, when you come in through the door, sometimes you have to say what band you're seeing. And for me personally, I will make sure I see every band, because I don't know if I'm gonna end up seeing something I really like. And so I stay for every band. But I normally stay at the back. I don't tend to go to the front. It's a lot of unspoken rules.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to like the first 2 rows. When I see people Visual-kei bands in the UK, I make sure, depending on the music, obviously, that I go kind of ape shit crazy, because first of all, I don't know when I'm going to see that band again, and second of all, I'm in my own element there, so I can go as mental as possible, as crazy as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I meant to bring this up earlier, but I kind of went on a tangent into something else. But like the unspoken rules, I know that in Japan there are certain bands that'll like ban certain gestures because like
what they ban them.
Yeah, so there's like certain things like something you see a lot of times is people will like have a fist and they bring it back and then they go forward and the fist opens, like they're throwing their energy up at them. Some bands don't like that. That's too hip hop for them, and they'll ban it at their shows. Okay. It's got a special name. I forget what it's called, but like there are like unspoken rules like that.
I don't know. I just call it like fist pumping.
No, you're thinking fist pumping.
Okay.
So I think it's either the fans make the dance for the song, or the band has dances for their song. So it's like foodie, it's called, I think, and they normally have those set dances for the song, and so I'm guessing people will follow it regardless. I can always see it on live DVDs and whatnot, depending on the band. And it's, I guess, you feel like you have to participate in some way, like you feel obliged. And a lot of time I don't want to feel that pressure, which is probably why I go crazier in my own country than I do in Japan. But I think I still enjoy it either way. It's just a different experience and something I just have to get used to.
Yeah, that's something I'm worried about when I go over to Japan, because over here, for the most part, it always depends. It's band to band. It always depends. But for the most part, like my best example is JROCK. Towards the front, you do have a lot of the people who are there, who are the younger girls, who are the fragile ones, like you had mentioned, NBT, and they don't want you to be anywhere near them. And then, like, towards the back middle is where all the psycho people, like myself, hang out and beat the shit out of each other throughout most of the songs.
The moshing section.
Yeah, and that's the most fun, in my opinion. Like, I've told people before, when I get tired in the pit, I like to stand right in the middle and see how many people actually have the courage to hit me really hard, even though I'm just standing there. Not a lot. But, the pit is the most fun, in my opinion. But pits can also have their own etiquette, too. Because like JROCK shows, you don't have a lot of what I've seen called and what I have called swingers. It's people who just flail their limbs around as hard and fast as they can, and if you get hit by a swinger, there's a good chance you're not going to be at that show anymore because of just the fucking force they put behind everything. They ruin shows sometimes.
Have you seen people doing backflips and shit?
No, yes, I have, but that was at the 88 Rising tour, which is a Asian hip hop from all over Asia. So that pit was very interesting, is what I'll say. They're very coordinated, and to the same regard, at hardcore shows where everybody's a swinger, they're very coordinated too. So the pit can be super violent, like at a JROCK show, it's just people slamming into each other, running around and stuff. But at a hardcore show, everybody's spaced out just perfectly enough to do all their swinging and jumping and crazy shit, but nobody gets hit, except for like one guy. One guy always gets hit, and then they have to take him away on a fucking stretcher. But every hardcore show I've been to is like that. There's barely any contact in the pit. It's just you don't want to be in the pit unless you also have your own special little area to jump around and do weird things. And I find that that's kind of boring. And again, that's just band to band.
Yeah, this one thing I want to bring up is like, if you're in the West and you go to a Visual-kei show, what would the actual rules be? Would you try to be more Japanese, or do you still stick with the like Western kind of unspoken rules.
Yeah, because that is the thing too. It's like, I feel like you have to be conscious of who's around you and kind of get a feel for the room too, because some people, again, they don't want to be touched. Some people they have their camera out the whole time, which I feel is kind of lame anyway. Yeah. But if you're not blocking anyone's view with it, if it's just like right in front of you and you're not like holding it in the air or something, okay, you get a pass from me. But there are people there who legitimately just want to stand in their spot and not be messed with at all. And sometimes the pit gets too crazy and those people will get knocked around and they'll get really fucking mad. And I think you mentioned something about that already, where they'll get really mad if you mess with them. So you have to realize, like, if you're towards the front, probably don't lash out and start shoving everyone, because they won't be happy with you. But if you're somewhere towards the middle, either you or someone else will eventually start the pit.
Well, it's like, whose fault is it then? Like, if let's say I'm like really fragile and I go to the front of the stage, is it me that is at fault for not realizing that people might get crazy and instead not standing in the back? Or is it the people that actually go a bit crazy that is at fault?
I would say it's both, because for one thing, you're at a show, and if you're not on the balcony, if there is a balcony, you should be expecting some not great contact with people. It's inevitable. You're never gonna go to a show and just have 100% the greatest experience ever. Nobody even came into your personal space. It's going to happen, especially if the band has any semblance. I mean, even nowadays, they don't even have to be fucking heavy at all. Like I said, at that 88 Rising tour, that was a bunch of hip hop and rap. You know, you don't think mosh pit when you think hip hop and rap, but people were doing weird shit when I went there. So
that's true.
You're gonna get pushed around a little bit, and depending if you really don't want to get touched at all, you'll go to the way back, because that's where people are the most spread out, but that's where you have the worst view of the show. So there's risk and reward to how close you want to get. But there is a sweet spot that is the worst if you don't want to get touched, and it's like pretty much the exact middle of the crowd is where the most insanity is going to take place.
It was one show, I can't remember what show it was, but it was in the UK. I went to one show and I accidentally stepped on, I believe it was I can't remember. I accidentally stepped on someone's foot, and I think I stepped on their foot twice. I wasn't meant to, but it was because the way everything was set out to be, and I'm always stressing me out a bit. But either wherever I'm in Japan or if I'm in a Western gig, I always have this thing in my head that I'm kind of stressed, because I'm trying to think of, okay, I just want to make sure that I don't like cause any trouble, or if somebody else isn't causing any trouble, or I'm just trying to navigate a crowd basically, but I want everything to be like, as long as I hurt anybody, then I think it's fine, you know? Because that would be on my guilty conscience forever. But like this one fan's foot, so I wasn't meant to do it, and she got really angry at me, and I was like, well, I can't help.
I can't unfuck your foot, you know.
So I mean, yeah, you can't do anything in those situations.
So let me basically wrap up in a nice little bundle what I feel are some of the rules in Western US shows. And let me get your opinion on how those might differ, both of you, from Japan. So I'll go to NBT first and then Sis. But I say at Western shows, it's pretty much anything goes. Be mindful of the people around you. Kind of get a feel for your crowd. It's really your responsibility to figure out what kind of people are around you. After going to a few shows, you will start to get a feel for where it is that you belong as a person. If you want to just stare at the band really intently and you don't mind getting pushed a little bit here and there, the very front is for you. If you want to get real crazy, you're going to be in the middle, almost the exact middle. And if you want no one anywhere the fuck near you, you're going to get towards the back. And for the most part, nobody's going to be happy if you're going to have your phone out the entire show, or a camera out the entire show, blocking people's view, raising it up really high, just making it so nobody can see the band. That's how I feel most things go. There are some people that ban phones and cameras. There are some that don't. And for the most part, most people are not going to be happy with you if your phone or camera is right in their face. NBT, what would you say in Japan? How does it compare?
like in Japan, it's quite like the crowd is usually quite unified, so to say. You have like this furitsuke, as we mentioned before, like the dances that they have, and sometimes bands even sell like, for example, like fans, like these hand fans, and they would use them in the choreography. So when the part comes, the entire crowd does the exact same thing. So there's not a lot of like moshing and stuff like that, but they are quite unified, and when they move together. It's literally like a wave kind of thing. So sometimes they jump back and forth, and everyone does that at the same time. So there's no kind of like pushing around. But when I went to Allsted, for example, and Allsted was, well, not Allsted, but their new band is called Alls. So they went from Visualkei to like not Visualkei, kind of like more regular metal. And that's when I saw the difference. So even if it was a Visualkei festival, they had a different crowd there, and they went out. They kind of like, the energy that they put out was more like of a Western metal show. So it really depends on what kind of band it is, I think.
Okay. I mean, yeah, you mentioned the crowd is really unified. So to me, that kind of sounds like you can be just about anywhere as long as you're willing to follow along with the group. I know that some, especially Western bands, you'll get singers or frontmen who will like totally conduct the crowd. They'll call for a circle pit. They'll call for a wall of death. They'll call for any number of things in the pit. They'll ask for a pit if there isn't one sometimes. I mean, Sim was like that. They did ask for a wall of death, and they made us reset. I think I've mentioned that on here before. That was one of the most fun wall of deaths I've been to. But Sis, do you find that what NBT said is for the most part pretty true in Japan?
Very true. Just want to add to that. Like in Japan, it does very much depend on what show. If it's a metalcore show, you'll get a much more lax atmosphere. You can practically do whatever you want. People will go crazy with you. That's it. If it's Visual-kei, there's much more unified unity. For the fans thing, I remember when I went to a Visual Fest I saw Delta play, and everybody got our fans for this one song, like just at the beginning of the song, and I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, this is cool, yeah. And then for when I went to see Latco, they had maracas as well, and they were just like clapping away at the maracas, and I was like, what? This is also cool. What, like, that's so weird. It's so weird, but it's like
people are prepared for this.
Yeah. But yeah, it depends on what show you're at. There are definitely cases, and I've probably mentioned before, there are definitely cases where you get a mixture of Visual-kei, like metalcore fans.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really cool thing when the bands like either have something handed out to the audience or get something going with the audience. It makes the experience, more enjoyable. They
sell them though.
Well, that's one thing too, but I know the last time I went to see Toriko was pretty recent, and they were touring with what are they? I think you know them.
Polyphilia? I don't exactly know how to pronounce it.
Oh, okay. I thought one of you guys knew the band, but they were touring with them.
No, we know the band, but I just don't know how to pronounce it.
You're bad with the pronunciation. Anyway, they were touring with that band and a few other bands. They were the opening act, but as we were walking into the show, there were like 2 or 3 people with these big bags of these rubber bracelets that had LEDs in them. And it was similar to like the pen lights that you'll see at like an idol show or something. Yeah. And everybody in Toriko had them on too. And I don't know about the rest of the bands because I fucking laughed. Yeah, but they had those, and everybody got involved with having their little lights.
When I went to see Arda-kun or Arurukan so many years ago again, they had like ring lights. And they were little, like flashing. Actually, no, it was Kodomo Dragon actually. And they had ring lights, and they were flashing to the whatever song it was. So that was really cool.
Oh, didn't like Kamijo have like these roses, or was it Versailles?
I don't know. I think it was Versailles. I have no idea. Saying people really to me.
Oh, let's start the war, guys. But yeah, I think that's really cool. So, yeah, like you said, you got to buy them. I know. I think I mentioned the last time I went to go see one of those delayed viewings of a Bang Dream live for Roselia. I had already bought a pen light, and I will say, like, at first I was like, "This is so lame," but then I was like swinging the stupid little stick around to the song, and I was like, "This is so awesome." So
that's exactly like the Hatsune Miku shows. It's exactly the same.
It's interestingly alluring in a way. Once you start doing it, you're really into it. But like you look at it from the outside, and you're like, why are you guys swinging those things around? You know.
I give a point to like every show that I go to, and to be honest, like the Hatsune Miku shows, they are so unified, and everyone does the same thing with light sticks. And to be honest, I rate that as like one of my like top 3 concerts I've ever been to.
I think the nice thing about the Bang Dream one, even though like you see it in the audience too, and in the viewing, like the live audience that was actually there, is people pick the color of their girl, and they're like, "I'm representing you." So that's pretty cool.
That's not unified.
It's unified in the rhythm, but like some people pick their girl, but then like certain songs or something, they'll kind of not really ask you to, but you'll start to realize that, oh, let's go to this girl. Like if the keyboardist has a solo, everybody will switch to the keyboardist color, you know? So there is some unification, but for the most part, it's kind of like a mini war of best girl, which is always fun.
It's different with Hatsune Miku though, because in the Hatsune Miku lineup, they have like different characters, and each character have their own distinct color. So there's like blue, and there's like red, and there's yellow, and so on. So whenever that character goes on stage, everyone changes to that color, except for people who have trouble seeing the difference between orange and yellow.
Except for those blind motherfuckers.
Yeah, I mean, it looks weird when some people have like orange and yellow when it's supposed to be yellow.
Oh, you never know if they're colorblind. That's mean.
Okay, fine. I give them pass. Like one of the craziest, well, not craziest, but most fangirl-ish show that I've been to was actually when Gact.
Oh my god, yeah, same.
Oh, you lucky bastards. I
it wasn't Gact
so bad.
Oh,
you want to
yellow fried chicken?
Yeah, it was yellow fried chicken.
It's still Gact.
Yeah, so I think they did this on every show, that they would like take off their shirt and throw it to the crowd. So in the middle, it was like a big war because of it, and they kind of like torn the shirt into pieces.
That's exactly what happened.
That's amazing. Yeah. That is amazing. I actually have a scar on my arm from tipping a drumstick that Shinya threw one time.
Oh, that's a memory.
Yeah, this girl like just fucking clawed me, and the drumstick hit my finger, and I was like, "That'll do, pig. That'll do."
At that yellow fried chicken's gig in the UK, it was a tie, and I vividly remember two people just holding the tie together and trying to decide who would get it, and then they ended up cutting it with the scissors or whatnot.
It's like throwing a small animal into a crocodile pit and just watching it become 5 animals.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll kind of wander off from the topic for now. You know, go on to the next thing. But I guess to wrap it up.
Wait, I have one more thing to mention.
Okay, cool guy. Like, let's see what you got to mention.
Like, what do you guys feel about people who cut kind of like between people, like cut through the crowd?
Okay. Oh, there should be, especially in America, I believe that we should have, you should be allowed to carry whatever weapon you want anywhere and execute those people on sight.
Yeah, that sounds so American.
What I have difficulty doing is getting to the mosh pit a lot of the time. So when if I haven't lined up at a certain time.
Well, I meant like if you're in the merch line or something. If you're navigating through the crowd, good luck. You know, like if you're just going to get to the very front, you should have got there earlier to begin with. But sometimes you got to go to the bathroom and then you come back and then you're screwed. You know, you want to get back to where you were. That's all understandable. I specifically meant if you're trying to cut in the merch line or something, like a legitimate line.
No, not merch line.
You deserve to die.
I mean, like in the crowd, because like how acceptable is it, like to kind of like. Okay, what's your opinion?
So like I said, for me, it's good fucking luck. I'm not going to try too hard to keep you out of the way, but don't fucking touch me.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes people who stand like kind of like near the stage, they don't actually care that much, and it would be quite like, how do you say it, like kind of waste of the experience of not trying to get more in front sometimes.
I'm not gonna push the person at front. My goal is never to go at front. I don't care. I see much better at the back. I can see much better at the back than I can see at the front, in my opinion.
That's because you're short.
No, well, yeah.
I think it would be the other way around, wouldn't it?
Oh, well, it's true. It's true.
Nothing to worry about people around me, crushing me or crushing somebody other. People are having the space. I prefer to have foot space more than anything. But there are times what MBT said, that there are people just standing about and they're not really doing much. When I went to Durham Gray, most recent Durham Gray, people were still standing around and I was going batshit crazy and people were looking at me like, what the fuck is this dude doing? I'm like, mate, I don't know where they're going to come back again. So I might as well go shit crazy now.
Yeah.
And then there are occasions where, a mosh pit forms and I have to try and push through or try and navigate through the crowd to get to the mosh pit.
Yeah, you have to. If there's something that you want to be a part of, you have to. And it's understandable. It's totally understandable. And I'm okay with that. Like I said, don't fucking touch me unless you're punching me for the most part. But I'm not gonna get in your way and be like, nah, little one, you belong in the back. If you're like, trying to struggle through, I'll inch a little bit to the side, but I'm really, for the most part, not going to be like, oh, you got it, go for it.
Yeah, I will always apologize when I go. I always apologize, just out of, I don't know why I do it, but
that's always nicer than somebody just muscling through like some kind of dick, like it's their birthright to be at the front of the crowd.
Yeah, I hate that.
All right, so let's get into our little quick news bits then. With that, I don't have much. I've kind of been lurking in the past. I'm pretty sure you guys have noticed, but obviously the readers and listeners don't know when I'm disappearing. I did do a story about a new agency called Upcoming. It's two really big players in the Japanese music industry who came together to make a new company. Some of the things they said make it seem like we may be able to see more bands out in the West, and we may be able to see new bands rising up in Japan. So look out for that one. I mean, the keyword would be upcoming. I can't remember every single detail about it. I feel terrible because of that. But the other thing is there's a Mongolian metal band called The Who, and it's HU for Who. And I would look into them. They're going to be coming out with a new album very soon. Maybe when that comes out, I'll see about getting it out on JROCK News. But Sis, do you got anything?
Yes. MBT's article on Hyde, actually. And the album's really good. Really good. I wouldn't say I'm surprised. It's really refreshing and it's really cool, you know?
So Jun from Golden Bomba is now a father. So he got his baby girl, what was it? He announced it on May 3rd, so we don't really exactly know when it entered the world. And but the thing is, since he's on tour, he hasn't been able to actually meet his baby yet.
Aww.
So that's a bit unfortunate, but yeah.
All right, so those are our little quick bits of news. So let's go into social media and fan interaction, if you want to call it that. MBT, I know you had a few things before I go into some of the comments from last month's post. What was something with Rookie? What was it?
Well, he just released his new collection, and people were kind of complaining that it was too expensive. But I kind of get the deal, and as some people actually mentioned in comments, they just produce just a limited quantity, so it's not like they can mass produce them like H&M. So it's obvious that the price is gonna be a bit pricier than regular clothing from I don't know, H&M. I don't know any other stores.
I mean, I know we don't have Nexus here, but you always have Mana if you want to pay too much for some merch.
That's true.
So with that one, I just got it. With that one, I want to go into the some of the comments from last week. We got two on the YouTube channel. We got Hote and Pan Pan Polkan. So they were naming some of the albums that they think would be considered classics as well. And from what I see from both of them, I mean, we got some X Japan, some Gact, some Glay, Luna C, Buck Tick, bands like that, and a lot of stuff from the late 90s and early 2000s. So also still really recent stuff. So I think, it's still kind of up in the air. Like, is it really old enough yet? Is kind of one of the things that I feel is a big factor in naming a classic. But there's definitely some albums in here that they feel helped shape the genre and the artists, like Mars by Gact and Lunacy by Luna C, Darker Than Darkness, which I remember the first time I heard the album called Lunacy, and then somebody said who it was by. I was like, oh, Luna C. They're so smart.
Miyavi has an album called Miyavi. It's people do that.
Miyaviism? Are you talking about that one?
It's actually called Miyavi.
No, I think I think he has an album called Miyavi. Yeah. It's just Miyavi.
Wait, what's special about that one?
No, it's Miyavi. It's
well, no, I don't think you're getting what I'm saying though. Luna C is Luna like the moon, C like the ocean, but the album is Lunacy like insanity.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I never realized that Luna C was Lunacy.
Yeah, I feel like that's when they were like just starting out, and then
it's just like, hey guys, I want to get the joke in there before you start following us, and like meanwhile I'm here like I never got the joke, guys. All right.
Yeah, but the bands that you mentioned, most of them are quite like typical bands that you would think of when you think of like classic JROCK bands.
Yeah, they're like the pillar men of JROCK.
Yeah.
How is that funny?
I found the JoJo fan.
That's a good one.
All right, before this devolves into insanity, let's close it up from here. Thanks everyone for joining us. We'll be back next month, hopefully. Next month's gonna be kind of weird because that's around the time I'm gonna be moving to Nippon for a while. So we'll see how that goes with recording schedules and stuff. We'll fucking figure it out. So thank you, everyone. As always, I've been your host, Mazo. Co-host, Sis. Yeah, and special guest, MBT. And as always, Nexus has let us all down. I'm kidding. I love Nexus. Alright, we'll see you guys next time. I can't unfuck your foot,